Sorry, my voice is trash from yelling all week. I'm doing my best Brenda Vaccaro impression. Yeah, we thought instead of sitting up here and talking story with someone you don't care about, we thought we'd just start taking questions from you guys and talk for a full hour. How does that sound?
I think we've been out here, is this the sixth time, Adam?
6 or 7, no, I have no idea.
Lost count. It's always a treat for us. Love you guys.
And let me tell you, when Jamie says it's a treat, you know it's a treat. Just hope you don't lie about that. All right, where do we have questions coming from? Do we have a microphone? We do have a microphone here, and a sparkly person heading right towards it.
There we go.
Okay. We're going to try to get to as many questions as we can in this amount of time. We do have some clips. We figure you're going to ask questions that lead naturally to them. If they don't, we're just going to show them. So you better ask about them in the right order.
Okay, yes.
Hi, my name is Kira. I've been a fan of you guys since I was like that tall. Like extremely, I was long time.
Okay, I feel old now.
I've always looked up to you guys, and I'm just wondering what was the craziest myth that you've had to reject because of safety reasons?
The craziest myth that
We had to reject for safety reasons. We've really found a way to do almost everything.
Well, actually, there's a thing to do with liquid oxygen that we stopped. We got about halfway into this experiment, and what it was about was that somebody was driving a tanker truck of liquid oxygen and had an accident, and it spills the...
They tipped the truck over. They didn't wet themselves or anything.
Yeah. Sorry. So the truck spills the LOX, they call it, liquid oxygen, all over the freeway, which happens to be made out of asphalt. And it turns it into a high explosive, and the whole
road into a bomb.
Yeah. And so we started experimenting with this stuff, and it is capable of making things explosive, as in high explosive.
Well, are there any scientists out there who work with liquid oxygen in their jobs? Anybody raise their hand? If there's any chemist who's ever worked with it, they'll tell you liquid oxygen is the scariest stuff on Earth. Because what things need to burn is oxygen and whatever they are, right? The fuel and the oxygen. And liquid oxygen doesn't make things burn, it makes them burn very vigorously. Or if you treat things right, it can turn an oily rag into a high explosive. And that's not hyperbolic, it'll turn an oily rag into high explosive.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, we deal with high explosives all the time, right? So, as you guys see, it's our stock in trade, as it were. But usually we know when it's going to go off. And
that's an important part of working with high explosives. Then you got step one.
Yeah, the liquid oxygen, it's not controllable that way.
Right, it's not consistent.
Yeah, and so, when you think about what happens if you dump a bunch of, tons and tons of liquid oxygen out over this large area, what happens if it doesn't go off?
Right, this is the most dangerous thing that can happen on an episode is nothing. Because it's potentially super lethal, and yet nothing's happened. Who wants to go over there? Nobody wants to go over there.
And then on top of that, what happens if it doesn't go off and it just gases off? Say we just leave it alone. Does it stay in a cloud and drift over a neighboring highway, and all of a sudden the cars are going 300 miles an hour by surprise?
So that one, look, we could do that in small scale, but we're just not going to do it because it wouldn't be right to do it in small scale and not go to full scale. You'd feel like you were cheated. So we're not going to do that one. I just want to call out, hi Princess Mononoke, I saw you on the floor today. Your costume is beautiful. Stand up, stand up. So wonderful. Hi Sparkles.
What I wanted to ask you was, what was the weirdest myth that you thought was going to be true, but it turned out not true?
I'll tell you okay. I'm going to focus on the word weird. And have I told this? So we were doing this story about a guy who got really drunk at a party and he realized he couldn't drive himself home, so he asked his friend to drive him home, except his friend was legally blind. And we wanted to test to see if a blind person could actually drive a car. So we tried ourselves. Jamie sat in the front of the car with a blindfold, and I sat in the back and gave him directions on a closed course. Oh yeah, like you do. On a closed course. And he did okay, and then I did it, and I did about the same as okay. And then we brought in a real blind guy who did better than either of us because he's blind and he's used to following directions about moving through the world. He was excellent at it. So then it was time to get Jamie drunk. You have to be careful about getting your Heinemann drunk. And we actually pissed off the liquor company. We used one of Jamie's favorite alcohols, Maker's Mark.
And I thought it would be funny, you know, to take the bottle and lie in the gutter and get drunk.
I literally did all the drinking lying in an actual gutter. And while we obscured the words Maker's Mark, the bottle was still identifiable and they were upset about it.
Yeah, they thought it reflected poorly on the brand for some reason.
Warning, you'll get Hoosiers drunk. So then we put drunk Jamie in the back of the car and the blind guy behind the wheel in this abandoned little neighborhood around Monterey, California. And the most astonishing thing happened, which was drunk Jamie giving directions to sober blind guy made him drive like a drunk person. Like weaving all over the road. They're going like 1 mile an hour. We're in this chase car, which is so not aptly named because we're crawling along, and at the end, Jamie steps out and is like, "I thought that went great." That's the weirdest result we've ever. I would have never imagined that in my whole life.
Next, thank you.
Hello, the question I have for you, Adam, what's the most painful thing that you did on the show?
Yeah, well, so there's different kinds of pain. There's pain to one's pride and integrity. I gave that up a long time ago. There's physical pain is we did this episode on. Actually, no, yeah, we did this episode on will cursing actually lessen your pain? And it does. And in order to test for that, we were testing different methods for achieving pain in a safe manner, which is scientifically non-trivial. And we ended up using our hands in a bucket of ice water. But before that, I did have a doctor inject capsaicin, which is what makes hot peppers hot, inject it into my skin. Ooh. Yeah, that wasn't the worst. The worst was when Jamie and I had to do a pain threshold test in season 1 about who had the higher pain threshold, so we decided to shoot each other with paintballs. I'm going to be quick about this, because I can make this a very long, shaggy dog story. Jamie starts out by psyching me out. He goes, "I'm going to hit you in the same spot every single time." So we line up and we figure shoot each other at 50 feet, move in 10 feet, shoot each other again, move in 10 more feet. Whoever cries uncle first, they have the lower pain threshold. So first shot goes, he hits me right in the belly button. Second shot hits me right in the belly button. And I missed him on the second shot, which shockingly gave me courage to go on because I thought, well, if I missed him, then it could follow that in the next shot he could miss me and I could get a freebie. Which is the stupidest thing I've ever been told by my brain. Third shot, belly button. Oh. I'm on one knee now, and so is my crew, but not out of sympathy. They're laughing. And I call Uncle. And then I noticed the guns were set with my gun was at a... My gun was at a lower speed setting than Jamie's. No, I'd set them up, not his fault. And I mentioned it to him, and he goes, "Well, would you like to shoot me in the stomach at point blank range?" So I was like, "Wow, wait a minute. Yes." So I did, like right from here, like I'm in Carlito's way. I shoot him in the stomach, and he goes, "Go ahead, do it." Thank you. Our people will be in touch with your people.
Well, and by the way, that also was, that was probably the one case that we had where it was both physically and mentally painful.
Yes, I was outplayed, sir.
Your pride was hurt. Yes.
Hi, my name is Lizzie, and I'm a really big fan. I think my big brother Adrian, he's a really, really big fan. He's seen every MythBuster on Netflix 3 times in a row.
Does he ever get his homework done?
I even asked him, like, why do you keep watching that? Oh, I still watch that. I like that. It's like, I'm waiting for the new one to come out. So, I want to ask you, like, you know how you did the MythBusters Star Wars on TV? Are you going to do any more, like, Lord of the Rings, or...
I feel like an idiot saying this, but can you believe that hasn't occurred to us?
Yeah, I think we probably should. The thing about the Star Wars stuff, we're also doing another Star Wars.
We are shooting another Star Wars.
And, there are things to do with these kinds of, the fantasy things, the sci-fi things. It's not real. There's the planet.
The fictional universe.
The fictional universe. How are you supposed to test it? Well, we look at it as part of the problem to solve, to figure out how to actually do that. In some ways, it's more interesting than the problem itself, and to try to find purchase on what exactly to go after. When we did the thing with the Tauntaun that you saw, that was one of those that we can test. How thermal masses conserve heat and so on.
Because Tauntauns are so hard to catch.
So we could probably find something in the Lord of the Rings or something like that.
We could catch an elf and make it tell us some secrets. We are also, I want to say, I'm going to tease next year. We just shot an episode of MythBusters based on a famous cartoon. And speaking of that, Jamie and I are actually appearing tonight on a Phineas and Ferb Star Wars episode. Voices of all the stormtroopers in the Phineas and Ferb Star Wars episode.
And we can't tell them what the other animated thing is. We're not allowed to.
Can't. Nope. Nope. We're good. So, hey. You want a little tease? I'm sorry, Kalo. I'm gonna load the 2 teasers first before the cosplay thing, okay? She's probably gonna be ready. So you may hopefully know that they're airing new episodes of our show right now on Discovery on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock. We've got 5 more coming between now and the middle of August, including is a roundabout better than a 4-way stop sign, and you haven't lived so you've seen Jamie Hyman dressed as a traffic cop. White gloves and all. And then we also figured out the best way, our season closer is how to board an airplane in the most efficient manner. So can we show the teaser of season 10? Can we load it? Hey, Hope? No. Oh, yeah. Already cost $10,000 a piece, and the rocket builders were on the show, and they told us about the process. Now, $10,000 buys you a rocket that they made. For $17,000, you can buy a rocket that they made another one of that they tested to make sure the one you bought works. And we didn't pay for that one. So we had 2 of these $10,000 rockets that might work, and they blew up on the stand. So that was 20 grand of rockets down the tubes, plus 100 grand of keeping our crew in the desert for a week, building a ramp, doing helicopter shots, all of that stuff. And 2 things happened. One was I said on camera, I think someone owes us $10,000. I was wrong, it was 20. And the rocket builders immediately asked to have their on-screen credit changed to rocket experts. Instead of rocket builders. They didn't want the credit.
otherwise, in a general way, the largest explosions that we've done that involve the largest amounts of explosives have been using the fertilizer diesel fuel mix known as AMFO. But that stuff it's fertilizer and diesel fuel, so it's not terribly expensive.
You know what would be really expensive?
No.
We blew up money. That'd be awesome. They're trying to destroy the U.S. Mint because they destroy like $1 million worth of old ones every day. We could get a few duffel bags full of that and blow that up. That would be the MythBusters version of Making It Rain.
Thank you.
You look fabulous, by the way.
Thank you. What is your favorite explosion of all the seasons of MythBusters?
Yeah.
I don't,
Oh, really? I've got one.
water heaters.
Water heaters, man! I heard that response. There is nothing more fun than hearing a water heater go off, man, because most explosions are really fast, right? Like 20,000, 10 times the speed of a bullet, 20 times the speed of a bullet fast. So it's a crack. And you don't get to really experience what's happening until you watch it on high speed later. But a water heater is this long, slow, guttural thud that you don't know about yet, but you will. Feels exactly like falling in love.
I was going to say that there actually is an interesting explosion coming up in the new season. I think we can talk about having done an 18 episode. Is that okay for us?
You can just say those words, but we shouldn't talk about what happened.
No. What we're starting to see on some of these things, because we've gotten, I guess, more advanced in the way that we're handling some of these situations, and looking at the high-speed footage on one of the things that we were doing, seeing.
Oh yeah, that one.
Seeing the actual shock waves. You might have seen in the...
all those spherical shock waves coming out of the explosions.
Yeah.
We made one that was non-spherical.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I know!
It's amazing what you can learn from that. You can literally see the, pardon my use of the term, force as it's moving through materials. And you can see
we made it was like 2 spheres.
Yeah.
Reminded me of something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's a lot of cool stuff in all of these.
Sorry. That's why you never see our story meetings, because I go race to the bottom on every joke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My personal favorite episode is the Demolition Derby special with the rocket sled. And, when it happens so fast, you can't see it. What was going through your heads when you saw on the high speed a car just being decimated by
Actually,
a rocket?
it wasn't the car being decimated that was most shocking to me, because we're in a bunker, we're in New Mexico Tech, and it's literally like the car is traveling from there to there, and we're behind like 8-inch thick plates of glass. And we watched something break the speed of sound from 0 to Mach 1.2 within 300 feet right in front of us. And I was so astonished. If you watch the episode, you'll see me go, oh my God, that was amazing. And what happened is I was so shocked, I drooled on camera and realized I cannot stop and say we got to do that again, because here's all the adrenaline that's got to end up on the screen. So I just wiped my drool as best I could and kept on going with the take. So live drooling on camera. Thanks for bringing it up.
My question is, what was your favorite water heater explosion except for your most recent one, where you blew up the house?
You weren't satisfied with that one?
It was pretty funny. I think that was the best one.
Okay.
I think that one with the red shed that we had.
It's the most visually beautiful. The red shed blowing up is the most visually beautiful. But I would figure you for liking the one where we tried to make a cannon using the compressed steam from the exploding hot water here inside a bigger container. Well, like the third scariest thing we've ever made.
No, I'd go for the little red house.
Little red house. Best part about the little red house, remember I said hot water heaters are slow? That little red house had a window that you can see in that shot. Window was not broken. Yeah! I'm totally blown away by that. It's not broken. That's not, I don't know, that's technically an explosion. It's just like a really bad thing that happened to that house.
Yeah, one of our favorite things about all these explosions is going in and looking at the little artifacts that we see afterwards.
Well, Jamie's got a desk tchotchke that's unbelievable from 22,000 foot fall.
Yeah, after we set off that explosion, I'm looking around like I normally do for just to see
This
what I
is
can
just to
find.
be clear. After an explosion like that, we'll be filming little bits to camera, and Jamie's just wandering in concentric circles from the epicenter on out, looking for cool stuff.
And so I went over and looked at, there was an oak tree that was in the vicinity. It was some distance away, but I go over and I start looking around at the base of the oak tree, and I see this limb on the ground, and it had a piece of steel that came off of the building that we had built when it blew up. And this is an explosive that is propelling things at around 20,000 some miles per hour. And I don't even remember what Mach that is, but it's pretty darn fast.
Bach badass.
Yeah. And that bar of steel that was probably about this long, it was like
About as thick as a Sharpie.
yeah, it hit the limb and it wrapped around it, but it kept wrapping around it like a spring.
Like a piece of spaghetti.
Yeah, it's like if you took a cooked spaghetti noodle and threw it at a broomstick, and it kind of boloed around it.
This is a piece of steel that you can't bend, but it did that in less than a millisecond.
Yeah. So we see stuff like that all the time. I'm sorry because we have a long line. We're
We're at
about
the 5-minute mark. We're going to be able to get to probably 2 more questions.
2 or 3 more questions.
I want to say, before we get to these questions, I really appreciate you guys waiting patiently, and I most appreciate every year you guys sitting and waiting online for this panel. We love coming here and talking to you guys, and it's totally humbling that you sit and wait. We really hope that we're entertaining and funny for you guys.
So,
My favorite myth by far was underwater car myth, where you open up the window, let the water come in, and swim right out, and it was terrifying for you.
My mom is still not allowed to watch that episode.
I'm wondering for each of you, which myth has been your favorite in terms of educational? Like, this is information that people need. It makes their lives safer or better.
It's a great question. What myth made you guys smarter? That's a tough one. For me, one of my all-time favorites is one of the most difficult stories we ever shot was swimming in syrup. Which the myth is that swimming in syrup is just as fast as swimming in water, because while the material slows you down because it has a higher viscosity, you get more push off of it with your hands because it has a higher viscosity, and those two cancel each other out. Now, spoiler alert, it's totally true! It totally works, and that's mind-blowing. And everything we tested on that episode was not what we expected. And so every day of shooting, it was like 7 or 8 days out filling these long pools full of this really funky syrup. Every single day we finished, we got to results that we didn't expect. And so we had to change what the next day's shooting and experiment was going to be. And there was a lot of arguing, a lot of discussion, a lot of problem solving to figure that out. And in the end, we were really proud of the episode.
I would say it would be Lead Balloon, and that is, it's one of both of our favorite episodes out of everything that we've done. And it kind of exemplifies the sort of things that we do where, you don't need to know how to build balloons out of lead or polished turds. This stuff is, there's a good reason that it's not generally done. But
it can be.
But it can be. And it points out, like we talked about the process, this for us is an adventure, and whenever we take on one of these things. And the adventure in the case of the lead balloon was this wonderfully simple thing. It was just a bag that had to be, put together out of this material and inflated. But the material itself was so unreasonably weak and heavy that it was almost ridiculous to be able to do that. And it required us to so carefully internalize and see in advance everything that was going to happen when we tried to do that. So we literally had to, I'd like to say it's the closest that we'll ever come to actually seeing the future. When we went through in our heads, we walked through every second of the day of that build prior to having done it. Not just like a list on paper, but it was in our heads, we saw it. And then when we did it, we'd already been there, it worked. Every contingency that we had thought of, every kind of approach to deal with the contingencies, it was all there. We'd walked through it, we'd anticipated, we already saw it. And for that was, it was wonderful. It was just such a simple thing. It was wonderful. Yes, ma'am.
One last question.
Oh, thanks. Have you guys ever considered making a musical episode? And
That's in the past.
and what it will sound like?
Do you want to hear Jamie sing?
Yo.
You should sing happy birthday. It's what the crowd wants.
No.
Okay, this little girl's disappointed. Let's take one more question for her and then we're going to go. We can't disappoint the children. Thank you.
Have you ever been in a movie? Like, have you ever did special effects in a movie or something?
Have we ever been in a movie? That's the question?
Or done special effects for a movie. Those are two separate questions.
We have. That's a long answer.
We've done both.
We've done both. We have been in a movie. We actually played the owners of a military salvage yard in a film called The Darwin Awards by Finn Taylor. Yeah, I know. Co-starring Joseph Fiennes and Winona Ryder. You never heard of it for a reason. Well, Jamie and I make a little cameo in it. It was really fun. We worked with David Arquette on that film, didn't we?
Yes.
Thank you so much, sweetie. Thank you guys. Woo! We'll see you next year.